So I have something here. Little wrapped present. And this is actually a gift for Dragana. Is Dragana there?
Oh, really? Oh,
so Dragana, I felt that I really wanted to bless you with this gift.
Oh, I'm so happy.
Are you excited?
Yeah, that's great.
Yes, but I really want to.
Oh, I didn't expect this.
Before I hand over the gift, I just need to check up on a few things, Dragana. First of all, how was your fasting during Lent? I mean, did you manage to keep up all the 40 days?
Oh, no, I didn't.
Oh, and did you come to all the Easter services at church?
I have to say, no, I didn't. I'm sorry. I wanted to, but I just couldn't.
And I know it's very difficult for you financially, you know, you're on a very tight budget, but how has your charitable giving been this month?
Oh, it came to nothing. I didn't give anything.
I know you were hoping to pray at least 30 minutes every morning. So how did it go this morning? Did you get the 30 minutes done?
I didn't have time. I only prayed for 5 minutes.
Oh, so really, I'm afraid that I can't give you this. I can't give you this gift.
But you said you would give it to me. It's like you are paying me for something. It's like you want to give me a reward and not a gift.
Okay, I see what you mean. So how do you feel now? You were so excited at the beginning.
I'm very disappointed because I was really looking forward to that gift.
Yeah, and what do you think about me as the gift giver?
I think you're not fair. You're not fair because you said you would give me a gift and now it turns out it's not a gift.
Oh, okay. Well, let's replay the scenario. Okay. So, Dragon, I have this wonderful gift, which I would really like to bless you with.
Okay, it looks lovely, but you see, I have all these gifts. I don't really need this gift. You know, I have everything I need.
But you do need this gift because inside it's got, you know, love, joy, peace, forgiveness, answers to prayer, blessings, grace, all sorts of things.
Okay, I think it's
so you just take the gift. Honestly, it's just from me, no conditions.
Yeah, but you know what? I can't repay you for this gift. I can't give you anything like that in return. So I'm a bit embarrassed, really, you know, to receive a gift like that.
Oh, but there's no need to be embarrassed because this is absolutely, it would give me such joy to give you this gift with no conditions.
Yeah, but I don't deserve it. You see, I haven't done anything. I haven't done anything for you or, you know, for anyone. And it's not my birthday.
No, you don't need any. There are no conditions. I want to give this gift to you as an absolute blessing. You don't need to earn it. You don't need to repay me, and it's definitely something that you need.
Is it true?
So will you receive it?
Is it true? Yes.
Okay, shall I show you what it is?
Yes,
I'll give it to you next.
Please tell me.
We might be disappointed. Yeah. Okay. It's Indian curry sauce. And some tofu. So you can make yourself a delicious lunch. Okay, I'll give it to you next time we meet. So you'll see there that Dragana has shown you what it's like if we don't set our lives according to Romans 4:13-17. So basically it says God's gifts are absolute grace expressions received by unconditionally trusting him. Two things can happen. First, we think that God is manipulative, that he's unworthy, that he's a liar and he's not gracious. If we put any conditions that we envisage that he has in giving us salvation, justification, making us righteous. And the other thing is, the danger is that we can put our own limitations because we ourselves feel unworthy, or we cannot repay God, or we feel that we don't need his blessing, which of course is the case for many people who don't believe. They think they don't need salvation, they don't need God. So for everyone, God's gifts are absolute grace expression received by unconditionally trusting him. And here in Romans 4:13-7, remember we're talking about justification, that is being made right with God, being in relationship with him. It's not about expressing our love to God, or growing as a Christian, or developing Christ-likeness. It's sure we're talking here purely about being accepted by God, made righteous by him. It's righteous standing. A justification as if we never sinned. So we have there verse 13, we see that the promise was to Abraham. The promise was to the physical seed of Abraham. And the promise is to all nations, that includes us as non-Jewish people. But we cannot depend on the law as our basis of acceptance by God. The promise was given to Abraham as a complete package, even before he expressed belief, because God told him, and then Abraham believed, and it was counted to him as righteousness. So the blessing actually came first before he believed, and then he was made righteous. And it was because of his faith. And of course, verse 13 highlights that it was years before he was circumcised and hundreds of years before the Mosaic law. So God's gifts are absolute grace expressions received by unconditionally trusting him. Verse 14 says that if law keeping is imposed as a condition, like I did with Dragana just now, and it can be imposed as a condition by the God that we imagine, or imposed by us. The Bible says in verse 14 that there are two unimaginable effects, but I think there are five. The first is our faith, our belief, our trust, and our confidence in God would be totally irrelevant if we could earn salvation by keeping the law. We don't need faith in God because there's nothing for him to do. And secondly, the faith would no longer be a gift. So in the first scenario, I offered Dragana a gift, but if I impose these conditions, it's immediately not a gift. Her joy vanishes, and it becomes some kind of manipulation, some kind of bargain, some kind of horrible contract. Thirdly, God's grace is no longer grace, because God's grace, God's riches at Christ's expense means there's nothing for us to pay. Everything is from God. So, God's grace is no longer grace if there's a condition. And then fourthly, his promise become empty. What is the value of a promise if later there are conditions that you can't receive God? It means that God has to go back on his word. And fifthly, the terrible consequence is that our joy disappears if ever we think that our relationship with God is conditional on something, on our behavior or on God's character. Our joy disappears and is replaced by sorrow and disappointment. Verse 15 this is even worse. So if we try to be accepted by God by the law, by keeping the 10 commandments and all the other 600 laws, automatically guarantees failure. So we have, in the Bible, there are different words for sin, but we have sin. We could say the sin that's talked about at the beginning of Romans is maybe naively missing the mark. You know, we're not aware of the law, but we're not good enough for God, but we miss the mark naively. But as soon as we have the law, it's not that naive sin. It actually automatically becomes a transgression, which means deliberate disobedience. And God's subsequent wrath or anger follows deliberate disobedience. We have that from Romans 1:18. The wrath of God is being poured out against mankind. You know, and if you're not 2:25, if the Jews are circumcised but not obedient, they don't keep the law. It's as good as not being circumcised. They're cut off from the promises. And then 3:20. No one will be declared righteous in his sight by observing the law. Through the law, we become conscious of sin. So that's the terrible thing. Once the rules are there, we know immediately when we're breaking the rules. And 3:23, a righteousness from God apart from law has been made known, to which the law and the prophecies testify. So our righteousness can never be according to law for those reasons. Verse 16 is just a summary of what's just been said in case we missed it. God promised Abraham he would be the father of many nations, plural, not just the Jews. And Abraham was made right and received the gift of his inheritance only by faith, no other conditions. And then verse 17, God gave Abraham the ability to father the nations. So we don't call Abraham father because he lived like a saint, but because God made something of Abraham when he was an absolute nobody. He gave the ability to father the nations when he was as good as dead. It was almost impossible in the flesh for him to have children. And then we also know that God created the cosmos from a world. So application from this, we always need to know, what kind of God do I believe in? Because I can find myself thinking, if I didn't read my Bible in the morning or didn't pray, that I'm sort of hopping in and out of grace. That yesterday I was in God's grace because I read the Bible, and today I didn't pray this morning, so I'm not in God's grace. But no, Romans 5:1-5 says we stand in grace by faith. So God isn't a God whose attitude to me changes from day to day according to my obedience. God is gracious or he is manipulating. There's no halfway. And then secondly, do I impose my own conditions? Do I say to myself, I can't pray for this because I don't deserve it? Or I can't say, I might say, I don't need it because I need to do this for myself. I need to be strong in myself. I'm ashamed to ask for God's help. Or I can't repay God if he does this for me. I'm so embarrassed. So we can impose our own conditions and cut ourselves off from God's mercy and grace. So we need to tell ourselves, I am saved and I have access to all God's promises because I believe in God. I believe that he is wonderful. He never changes. He is always generous, always kind, always strict, never flinches. But he has, for once and for all, made the condition for me to enter into his kingdom by faith in all that Jesus has done. And Abraham wasn't perfect, we know that, but he was God's friend. He worshipped God, he talked with God. When God said go, Abraham went, but all the time it was not to earn the favor, because he already had the favor with God, but because he fully trusted God and wanted to receive fulfillment of the promise. So we know that the law isn't dead because we're saved by faith. We know that Christ is the fulfillment of the law. You know, unless our faith, our righteousness exceeds that of the Pharisees, we will never enter the kingdom of God. But we have that excessive righteousness by faith. But the law is now, so as and keeps them, he is the one who loves me. And he who loves me will be loved by my Father, and I will love him and manifest myself to him. That's what Jesus said, but he's talking to those who are already his disciples. So we have obedience to Christ is an expression of our love to him, but not the means to gain favor. And we also know that if we are I forgot the other verse. It's the other verse about obeying Christ. Yes, from Romans 8:32. So from 1 John 8:32. So to the Jews who believed him, Jesus said, "If you are truly my disciples, you will obey me." So those are those who are truly disciples automatically obey Christ, and then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. So they're coming back to the beginning. We know that Jesus' commands for us are already, when we're in relationship with him, as an expression of love, a means to growth. So God's gifts are absolute grace expressions received by unconditionally trusting him, and by no other way. That's it. I finished.
Thank you. The beginning, that expression with the gift,